I want to take you on a little bit of a tour, a safari through the media reactions, right and left and center, to the debacle that is Trump's economic approach, that is his trade war. Yesterday, officially fully underway, the stock market reacting poorly, GDP forecast reacting poorly, and I'll show you that even some of the folks over at Fox News and Fox Business are stunned by the economic stuff and by the Trump attack on Ukraine and his alignment with Putin. One Fox contributor saying some really stark words about Donald Trump. But let's start here with Maria Bartiromo coming to terms with the fact that Trump's actually doing it and it's actually maybe a little bad. Please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this show.
There have been lots of questions about the economy. Tariffs are just the latest. But, Chris, you look at what DOGE has done in terms of cutting federal spending. There are lots of questions in terms of whether or not this is going to lead to a further slowdown. We know that GDP now is expecting a contraction of almost 3% in the first quarter, Chris. I've been asking this question ever since the Lindsay Group put it out there back in February 20th. Can DOGE induce a recession with all of this cutting? And what about the tariffs and the pressure that brings to bear as well?
Maria, the financial markets like consistency, they like predictability. And this president has done some wonderful things, but that's been a problem, right? It's been problematic.
Yeah, so many wonderful things. Would you just mind for me naming one, maybe one single one, just like one single wonderful thing?
Stability. And this president has done some wonderful things, but that's been a problem, right? It's been problematic. These tariffs, Cheryl's right on. These tariffs are really scary. And I think you're right. It has a real
Gulf of America, obviously.
Possibility of bringing on a recession, at least in the short run. Long term, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. I mean, Apple and all these other companies falling in line is incredible. There's some things that have been incredible. We're hoping what these tariffs are.
All right, so trying to do a little positive sandwich there. He's great. This is terrible, but it's great. All right, thank you, sir. So a little bit of that. And then you have CNBC's Jim Cramer, who's just a fascinating character. We'll stick with the word fascinating as that descriptor. But here he also is very baffled and annoyed with Trump's approach.
I think, just to say, there's just vast confusion. No one knows. I mean, the automakers don't know what this is going to mean. The packaged goods companies don't know what it's mean when it comes from another country. There's no clarity whatsoever. Anyone who thinks that there's clarity is just completely wrong. I like Howard Luddick. I've known him for years. I mean, he's got some instances about autos. But it isn't like they've said, okay, look, here's the schedule, here's the tariff. Like when you were in Europe and they did Brexit, you got the schedule, you got the tariff. You said, oh, okay, I owe this. They haven't given us anything. We don't know what we owe and what we don't owe. We don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I've been saying, Jim. Where you been? I've been saying this for a long time. Ben Shapiro is also saying, please, Trump, please tell me this isn't the full plan.
And this is where President Trump does have to walk very carefully. Inflation killed Joe Biden's presidency. If you wish to see President Trump be successful, he needs a booming economy. He cannot have a recessionary economy. If tariffs continue to drive...
Jaden, could you throw that off? Let me quickly see if we can improve the quality of this video, as it's looking a little bit what we call in the business janky.
Up prices. And if wages do not increase sufficient to meet those prices, you're going to be in exactly the same predicament in which Joe Biden found himself. Now, again, I'm perfectly fine with using tariffs as leverage. If the goal of a tariff is to get other countries to lower their own tariffs, if the idea is you have a 25% tariff on our lumber, and now we have to put a 25% tariff on your oil products, and then we trade one for the other, and all the tariffs go away, I'm perfectly fine with that. If the idea of a tariff is to threaten, say, the country of Colombia with a 50% tariff in order to get them to take deportees, great.
Which they were already willing to do, but they just wanted it on a different plane, which Trump then capitulated to, so it actually wasn't a win at all, then great.
That is a piece of leverage. I still am unclear as to what the actual demand is against Mexico or Canada that would get rid of the tariffs. If the idea of the tariffs is that they are inherently a good for the United States, that is not true. Okay, tariffs are, in fact, a tax on American consumers. They drive up the prices. Now, again, there may be industries, like, for example, semiconductors, where you need them produced domestically for national security reasons. They simply can't be produced in China or in any place that is subject to Chinese predation. I get that, and I'm all for it. It is another thing to say that Canada is some sort of deep and abiding national security threat, requiring widespread 25% tariffs on Canadian products. Canada, by the way, is the #1 trade partner with the United States. Here was President Trump yesterday.
Okay, I love how they're just turning into us. Like, that's just the analysis I've been giving you the whole campaign. Hey, here are examples of thoughtful uses of tariffs. Here, and then Trump's plan is not that. Here's a way through leverage you could use tariffs in an appropriate way. Here's Trump's plan, which is not. And then now they're going, I think if I were to analyze this thoughtfully, then maybe Luke was right. Not that he specifically directed that at me, but it's interesting too, because here's the dynamic, right? You have Trump looking at MAGA and saying, I'm going to slam a hammer in your face. And MAGA going, awesome, do it. And Trump going, no, just to be clear, I'm going to hit you in the face with a hammer. And the voters going, yes, do it. Okay, we know you're not actually going to hit us with a hammer, but do it. And then they vote for him to do it. And then he hits them with a hammer. And they go, whoa, what'd you hit with a hammer? Yeah, we told you, don't give the hammer guy the hammer, but you gave him the mother-loving hammer. Goodness gracious, he's been saying on the campaign trail this entire time, tariff, such a beautiful word. We're going to bring back all jobs to America with tariff, 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 tariff. And then he would get asked, hey, wouldn't that increase prices? And he goes, no, it wouldn't. It's going to be so beautiful. Tariff is more beautiful than the word love. You ever heard of it? Love, almost as beautiful as groceries. I came up with the groceries. And they saw all of that and ignored it. And you had people like Ben Shapiro going, well, technically, what he means is that he won't use tariffs, and he really just thinks of tariffs as a way to threaten different countries to get, but he actually is a big supporter of free trade, and that's what he really means when he says he's not a supporter of free trade. He actually means that he's not going to do tariffs, whatever he says he's going to do tariffs. He actually says he doesn't think tariffs are beautiful, whatever he says he's going to do. Stop sane-washing this, and maybe you wouldn't be so confused when he hits you in the face with a damn hammer. A more thoughtful observer, Stephen Ratner, broke down the context historically of these tariffs.
Show how those compare to what he's doing now, as well as to history. So if you come over here, you can see that for a long period of time, we had not a lot of movement on tariffs. And then Trump came in, and tariffs are a beautiful thing. We got the whole speech back then. But he actually did limit a lot what he did to a few products, a few countries. And of course, remember that he negotiated the USMCA, the new so-called free trade agreement between Canada and Mexico, which he's now in effect ripped up. But in any event, and then Biden actually brought them down a bit. And
before he continues this, which when Trump says, I did huge, massive tariffs in my last term and everything was fine, you're seeing there on screen. I'll describe for my podcast listeners. During Trump first term, you had whittle. During Trump second term, you have big boy tariffs. So it's very different, not even comparable, ridiculously tries to compare them. And I totally forgot the next point I was going to make, so we're going to charge forward.
And these new tariffs on China, on Mexico.
And now I remembered it. So picking up where I left off, Trump was the one, Trump said, he said, these trade deals that people signed in the past, they must have been idiots to have signed them. The current trade deal that we're operating under with Mexico and Canada was signed by Donald John Trump. It's John, right? John Trump. He's the one who signed it. So he's the idiot, I guess, by his standard.
And on Canada have brought our average tariff rate to over 10%. And just to put that in perspective, this is the highest tariff rate we have had since World War II. The whole history of post-World War II was bringing tariffs down, bringing countries together, making them economically more integrated, as a means also of having more peace and less likelihood that one of them would attack another. And now Trump has gone the other way. He's doing this against the backdrop that is not ideal. Inflation, we can debate whose fault inflation is. He certainly took a shot at Biden last night. But inflation has come down, but it's kind of stuck around 3%. And the Fed's target is 4%. And this has implications for interest rates. It will be very hard for the Fed to cut interest rates further with inflation stuck around 3% and even going up a little bit. Meanwhile, and more significantly, inflation expectations play a big role in what actually happens.
Yes, okay. So continue on there with inflation. Interesting stuff as well. But this is not anything like we've seen before with Trump, even though he tries to compare it. And then you have media reporting on nauseating. The quote from Fox News is Andy McCarthy nuking Trump from orbit. That's a crazy phrase, guys. I think YouTube has broken our language. It's just such a, it used to be confront, then it was destroyed, and now we're doing nuke from orbit. Andy McCarthy dismembers Donald Trump in a takedown. I know, our titles do it too. From orbit over Putin infatuation, torches insidious Vance. And he writes here that, I don't know why he says this, but Ukraine's president performed incompetently, but with due respect to many of my friends and colleagues, to pretend that the real problem here is Volodymyr Zelensky's hatelessness rather than President Trump's nature and moral cluelessness, his mulish determination to be a neutral arbiter between a monstrous anti-American predator and its beleaguered pro-Western prey is as crazy as Trump's apparent conviction that Vladimir Putin is an ally waiting to happen, wrote McCarthy. President Trump's Putin infatuation? Yeah, it's nauseating. In fact, I find it substantially indistinguishable from the way President Obama swooned when talking about Islamists. So you see his MAGA coming through there, but even that person with that language is saying it's nauseating to see what Trump is doing. And you even have Brian stare cluelessly as Trump rants on Fox and Friends Kilmeade saying, what the heck is going on with Donald? Well, that's my summarization.
So, Brian, what is he doing?
What do you mean? What is
Zelensky doing right now?
Well, number one, what the vice president says, and what's said, just to go over what he just said, well, the vice president said that he's just trying to. Zelensky's point was, Vladimir Putin does the killing. Vladimir Putin did the invading. Vladimir Putin's been killing since 2014. And in 1997, we were promised security while he was still acting on the stage somewhere. And he was elected to bring peace to with Vladimir Putin. He talked to Vladimir Putin every single time, 25 times he has lied to him in the past. And that was his point. If you watch that 50 minutes, the first 40 minutes were perfect. In fact, they were getting along great. I don't know why it went on so long. But when that Polish reporter asked the question, it seemed to set off Zelensky, who then in comes the vice president. So,
by the way, the set off is Zelensky going, we just want an agreement that actually guarantees lasting peace with security guarantees. Oh, set him off.
So they both should keep the big picture in mind. Number one, if the president wants maximum leverage for a great negotiation, he shouldn't do Russia a favor and cut off the aid to Ukraine, because he just did Russia a huge advantage. Now what's Russia's incentive to get to the table? And for Zelensky, he should say, this is a great deal I had. How the heck did it get off the rails? Right. I should put my pride aside.
Yeah, he's done that over and over again. So flawed analysis, but he says, and it's infuriating Trump to hear this, that Mr. Art of the Deal, Master Negotiator, whatever, you can't preemptively give Putin what he wants. What is his incentive for peace when we're saying we just made Ukraine weaker, so invasion is a more appealing prospect now because Trump cut off aid to Ukraine? A sickening, disgusting act in this moment. If you want peace, you have to have leverage. And a big part of Ukraine's leverage in any peace negotiation that could craft a lasting peace deal was the fact that they had the backing of countries such as the United States. Now, a reminder that this is the forecast of GDP. It was looking pretty aight, as my uncle would say. And then Trump came into office and started swinging his hammer around. And now it's looking less aight. And now we're looking like we could see negative 3% GDP. This is a running GDP now estimate from the Atlanta Fed. So we will see what ends up actually happening at the conclusion of Q1. And then take a look at this. Representative Greg Murphy, a Republican, gets asked, hey, all right, we're doging it up. We're doging things hard. We're doging all over the place, doging all over everyone. And fine, but tell us that you're not going to cut veterans' benefits. And look at what old Chris says. We'll jump here.
doing what it's supposed to be doing. The VA is not there for itself. It is there for our veterans. And trying to reorganize the VA into doing something that is an efficient, workable organization and agency is what's after. Is there going to be short-term pain? Is there going to be some issues? Absolutely. And this is what happens with restructuring. But we have to get government back to doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's working for the people.
I guess the question is, will that pain be borne by veterans? Can you guarantee that veterans' benefits and care will not be affected by these cuts?
No, I can't guarantee anything.
Did you hear that sound? That was the sound, wow, of the last bit of integrity eking out of him. Listen.
Veterans' benefits and care will not be affected by these cuts?
No, I can't guarantee.
No, I can't guarantee that. No, I can't guarantee it. Chris.
The question is, will that pain be borne by veterans? Can you guarantee that veterans' benefits and care will not be affected by these cuts?
No, I can't guarantee anything. But the whole purpose, again, of restructuring is to make sure that that agency is efficient. And, look, I care for our veterans. 1 out of 10 constituents of mine are veterans. It's a real issue in eastern North Carolina. But the real issue is also when somebody can't get benefits and they're put off their doctor's appointments for 8 or 10 months when they can't get care. That is where an agency...
Genius analysis. We will protect your benefits by cutting them. Okay. Yeah, this is not looking good. My hope is that the damage that is going to be done to us, unfortunately, can then be sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word, directed towards damage to the GOP electorally. Okay, that's our goal. We can't control the fact that they're doing this, but we can try to make sure that the damage is ultimately experienced because of these actions by the Republican Party electorally. Share your thoughts in the comments and support the show. Get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.